Hello and thank you for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you a small altered seashell that I created out of an old soap dish. I created this seashell for Lindsay's August color challenge, which was a mix of blue, pink, and brown. As you can see, it worked perfectly for the beach scene. So I pulled out some seahorses, some mermaid tails, and I went to work. I started with a coat of white gesso over everything. The soap dish originally had some vintage flowers in there, and I just covered them up with some white gesso. Here you can see that I'm adding some white crackle paste. This white crackle paste may be discontinued, and I've heard from several of my favorite artists that they're using the deco art. I think that's what Tiffany said, but I haven't used that yet because I still have this white crackle paste, Finnabair's white crackle paste left, and I'm going to use it until it's 100% gone because I love it. Anyhow, here you can see that I'm adding my resin pieces to my soap dish, and it's a very three-dimensional object. It's actually really quite thick, so I'm using a lot of heavy body gel for this, and I'm letting everything dry. So you'll see there's a lot of time lapse, and my shirt changes a couple times in this video. But the key for this was just to kind of walk away and let it dry. Dry time is not always my friend, and I'm not always incredibly patient, so I've been trying to just work on several different projects at the same time where I can bounce around from this to that while I'm working on things, which is easier to do than to push it and then not be happy with the result. But you're going to just see me continue to play with things and add some more white crackle paste, and I'm just trying to see where things are going to be. I do take them off and remove them, and that's one of the benefits of working with the heavy body gel is while it does hold everything in place so you're able to work with things and build things up, it's not 100% permanent until it's dry, so you still have time. Here's the little seahorse that I absolutely fell in love with, and I'm just going to continue to play with things. I'm going to add some more crackle paste where I'm figuring out that's going to be kind of empty. And the key to using crackle paste for me is always just let it dry. Don't rush it. Put it on kind of heavy if you want bigger cracks, a little lighter if you want little tiny cracks, but always let it dry on its own. Don't rush the process, which is honestly extremely hard, I know. Now I've got my 3D matte gel out, and I'm going to use that to adhere a mix of art stones. I wanted to add a bunch of stones around the mermaid tails because honestly to me they look a little creepy just coming to an end like that. So I figured some art stones would mimic the sea life sand bottom kind of a little bit with some bubbles maybe or some grains of sand, things like that. Anyhow, I'm starting with mega stones. I'm going to continue this process and add in some regular stones, and then the tiny little mini stones I sprinkle in. But the key to this is always use your gel, get them in place, push them in place, and just let it dry. Again, not the easiest thing. Dry time is not my friend, as you can tell by many of the things that I've ripped apart and started over again. But it is the key to success when using art stones. But you're just going to see me continue to play with this, and I could have probably cut this part out or sped it up a little bit more. But honestly, I just wanted you to see my whole process. I'm trying not to chop up my videos as much. Unfortunately, that adds to my ramblings maybe a little bit too much, so I'm sorry, you can always mute me. But it does make it easier and the video isn't as choppy. So, I don't know, trying something new, hopefully it isn't too long. Anyhow, here's the little mini stones that you're seeing me sprinkle in, and then I'm going to walk away and let it dry. Oh, nope, I lied. Right now I'm going to go ahead and, no, I did walk away. So here you can see this is dried a little bit. Now I'm going to start to add some color, and I'm using the Hawaiian Islands magical set from Lindy's Stamping, and I'm using South Shore sand, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit of a spray, which is Steampunk Sepia, and then I'm just going to make the background of this shell a little bit kind of brown. In my mind it's just like sand, I guess is the best way to put it. You can see I've added a lot of water because I do want these colors to be really soft. I don't want them to be extremely vibrant, which Lindsay's colors are very vibrant. So I'm trying to soften them up by diluting them quite a bit, and you're going to see a lot of fluid and a lot of water. And plus I'm putting them on top of white gesso, so that's already going to lighten them up quite a bit. because they're going onto a white base and not a clear base. So they're going to be a little bit lighter anyhow. So here you can see me just adding the color, and then you're going to see I have a big pool of brown color back there, and I'm just going to dab it out a little bit and dry it. And I was a little nervous when I saw that big pool of brown back there, because I'm like, I don't want it to look like that. But it's okay, and I get it under control. Just give me a second. So a little bit more water, because I'm afraid it's turning too brown. And I'm like, oh my goodness, but I want to get all that brown into the cracks, because I want it to pick up all that white crackle that I added. So I'm trying to move the color around here and there, and you can see I'm just drying as I go, and I'm just heating it up. So it's basically pushing that color in and baking it in, and some of it I did dab out too. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add some brown to the frame. See, there's the gel that I'm just going to go ahead and remove because I decided, oh, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm going to bake that right in. Pick up some color off the mat and add it right back in. Just going to add some more of that brown. Don't want any of my Lindy's to go to waste. And trying to keep my mat as clean as possible. Here I'm adding some Lindy's spray. I believe it's Alpine Ice Rose. Sorry, it's a little bit of a tongue twister for me. I'm on some cold medicine, which is making me a little loopy. But I decided he was a little too pink, so I'm adding some brown in. But he gets a couple coats all over him. You'll see later. But just trying to add a little bit of depth to him with a little bit of a pink background. I guess I'm not even 100% sure what color seahorses are supposed to be. But this one is like a pinky brown kind of color. And I thought he was cute, so we're going to go with it. And I'm just trying to figure out my placement and how things are. I'm taking it back off, and I'm going to continue to apply. So now I'm going to start adding some of that same Alpine Ice Rose to the coral. And I'm just painting that on, trying to keep it off the seashells, trying to keep it off the mermaid tail. Just kind of using the sprays like watercolors at this point in time, not so much as a spray. Once I'm happy with the way the coral looks, I'm going to move on to mixing my own paint. So I'm going to use some of the Plumeria Pink Magical from the same set and a little bit of gloss gel. And you'll see I'm just going to add this to a dish, and then I'm going to sprinkle some Magicals in, and I'm going to mix it up. I'm not going to mix it up 100% because I want some of that dye to be more potent in spots, I guess is the best way that I can explain it. So when I'm painting the mermaid's tail, you're going to see some transition of color. Some parts are going to be a little darker, some parts are going to be a little bit lighter. But because I'm using the gloss gel and not a matte gel, it's going to have more of a shiny finish. The added bonus of using a gel to mix this kind of paint type substance is I can add things to it. So I can add a little bit of glitter, I can add micro beads, and I'm still getting that color on top of it. So here you'll see I'm just painting this mermaid tail with this really soft pink, and then I'm going to sprinkle some glitter on top of it. I'm going to shake off my extra glitter and continue to paint. Here you can see I'm just trying to get some of those pockets of pigment to shade on my mermaid tail, and then I'll switch over to the other side. I'm going to paint the second tail. I'll repeat the process, add some glitter, and shake it off. This is one of the many reasons why the Magicals are one of my very favorite products. They're so versatile. You can mix your own colors, mix your own paints, alter your own paints, make your own sprays, use them like watercolor. But you'll see, you can find, I'm sure, 101 videos on how to do that. But this is just a little tip that I use them, how I use them. So take it or leave it, but that's my mermaid tails. And I'm going to go ahead and move on. So I'm going to start working on my seahorse next, I do believe, after I finish mixing this extra paint that I don't use. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more brown and I'm going to paint that coral in the front brown because I want it to just kind of blend in with the background. I don't want it to take away from my seahorse. So once I get that adhered, sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied, I'm going to head and continue to add color, the things that I've added and forgotten about, and a little bit more to the seahorse, trying to decide if I like the way he looks right now. And I'm going to go ahead and get some ribbon. So this is just a bit of lace. I believe it's from Blue Fern Studios, I do believe. And just a little bit of ribbon. And I'm going to add some, I believe it's blue Hawaiian blue. And Ocean Breeze blue. A little bit of water. And I'm just going to mix these two colors to make my waves in the background. I guess that's what you're going to call them eventually. And give that a quick dry. Why I try not to burn my fingers off. And just be patient, sorry. I know it's a little tedious, but I'm just trying not to chop up my video so much, so it's going as fast as it can. I'm sorry, I know it's a little bit drawn out. So my ramblings will just be a little bit more, sorry. So you can see my thought process. I'm just trying to make a little wave in between there and, you know, covering up those empty mermaid tails. And I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want it. But for right now, I'm grabbing some white heavy gesso. And I'm doing this because I think, well, I need to soften this up just a little bit. So I'm just taking a real light coat and toning things down just a tiny, tiny bit with the white gesso. And that's just giving it a more conducive feel, I guess. Just trying to soften things up just a touch. Not too much, just a little bit. So that's what I'm doing right now. And you'll see I even add some of the white gesso to the ribbon as well. I've come to find that white gesso is my biggest friend. It just kind of brings everything together, makes everything gel a little bit better together, and it fixes things that you're not happy with pretty easily. So don't be afraid to just grab your gesso and reapply it. Worst case scenario, you add a little bit more color and you're still fine. Anyhow, there's my little soapbox treat for the day. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit to the seahorse. And then I do a lot more things to the seahorse, I'm pretty sure, and I mess them up a couple times. But again, gesso saves the day. I'm just adding some gesso to the lace. Just to tone it down just a tiny, tiny bit. I really wanted this to be very soft and pastel looking. So here you can see I'm grabbing some wax and I'm going to add it to the seahorse. And I'm going to decide I don't like it. And you'll see how quickly and easily I decide I don't like it. Like, yeah, no. So then I go ahead and grab my white gesso. I'm going to paint him up again, and then I'm going to add color to him again, and he'll be almost identical to the way he was. See? Easy peasy. Now I do decide to add wax to him, but I'm going to use a pink. So I believe this is Indian pink, and I'm just going to add a tiny, tiny bit across the top of him just to pick up his fins and his tail a little bit. Nothing too drastic, and I leave it at that. I'm not going to add any more pink anywhere. I thought about adding it to the mermaid tails. I'm not going to lie, because once I get this wax in my hand, I want to put it everywhere, but I stopped myself because I wanted this to be soft. I do add just a tiny bit of aged brass around my frame, and that's just to pick up some of the details of the frame because it kind of looked a little too washed out, in my opinion. So this is just going to pick up that contrast a little bit more and make the focal point pop just a tiny bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a tiny bit of that same aged brass around the seashell. The original shell had a gold rim around it, but I lost that when I painted it over with the white gesso. Now I'm deciding that I'm okay with everything, but I'm going to add in some splatters. That's just my favorite thing to do, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm using a little bit of white pearl paint and gesso, and then a blue opal paint as well, and just a little tiny bit of splatters, nothing too crazy. And then everywhere that I got too large of a splatter, I'm going to go ahead and dab those off as well. I didn't want the splatters to take it over, but I like my splatters. Now that I've got all my splatters, I'm happy with everything. I'm going to go ahead and give everything a quick dry, and then I'll start putting everything together. So I'm going to tuck my lace in, twist it around, try and make it look like a wave. Going to kind of lift and put that under the fishtail, the mermaid tail the best way that I can. I'm just going to play with it until I'm happy with it. It's a beautiful lace, but I don't want it to just be straight across. I want it to kind of look like a wave. So hopefully that's what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and add in my ribbon. I make it a little tiny bow, and then I'm going to adhere it with some gel medium. I don't use a lot, just a tiny little bit, just to hold it in place as it's hanging up. It's kind of funny to look at this when I used all these molds that I use, most of them are for cakes. So it's kind of funny that it's all in this little altered project. Anyhow, I decide, oh, I'm going to add some pearls. Because it's sea life and you find pearls in the ocean, so I figured why not. So I just dig through the jar and I'm just digging out some. I think I add a couple white ones and maybe a pink one or two. Nothing too drastic, and they kind of just blend right in and you don't even see them, but they are there. So I figured I would leave it in the video so you could see it. And now I'm finally assembling. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my heavy body gel because I want this to stay in place, and I struggle with where to put my heavy gel. So it's going to take me a second here to figure out where the frame hits the highest point of the tail, and I'm just trying to gob some gel on there, and it is a gob. And it does take quite a while to dry. Again, dry time is not always my friend, but so I'm trying to position this. I'm adding some glitter so you don't just see a gob of glue, which you don't see anything anyways because it dries 100% clear and it's really tucked under there quite well. I'm going to place my seahorse, decide if he's straight enough or as straight as I can possibly make him. And then I'm going to try and find a quote or a word or a chipboard or something that I'm going to put on here. And I have no idea what I'm going to put on here. So you'll see me pull out a couple things. I'm grabbing some Tim Holtz quotes. Yeah, they don't work. So I go ahead and I finally find a sticker off of 7 Dot Studio. And you'll see me scrolling down these next. Again, I'm just showing you my whole process. So just so you guys know that, you know, you see all these projects and they just come together so easily, and it's not always like that for me. So I just thought I would share that with people. So if they are like me, they'll know that sometimes you just don't know where it's going to go. But anyways, here I am, and you can see that I am just trying to find a sticker that works for me because I just think that love life is just too big, and then I wind up using it on something else here recently anyways. So I'm finally happy. I think I find it on this sheet here. Maybe. Yes, Explore, Discover. There it is. And I'm going to make this into a banner. So I'm just going to put it on a piece of a heavy cardstock, and I'm going to trim it down a little bit so it fits on there better, and then I'm going to clip the ends to make it into a tiny little banner. So you'll see me doing that now. And I do that a lot. I know some people just stick the stickers right on there, but for me, I like to make them a little bit stiffer. They tend to stand up a little bit better, and they stay on a little bit better when they're more secured. For me, anyhow. So I'm going to clip and trim and turn it into a tiny little banner. There we go. And that really wraps up this project. I hope that you've enjoyed my process. I hope that my rambling isn't too much. And thank you for your patience. I do hope that you'll consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for spending your time with me today, and you have a great day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.